What's up guys, this is John with GoWesty. In this video I'm going to show you how to install
AUX-700,
which is a second battery installation kit for a full camper. The difference between installing a second battery in a full camper and a weekender or a non-camper is the bracket that holds the battery down. For a full camper that still has a swivel seat, you'll want this smaller bracket that bolts onto the swivel base. For a non-camper or a camper that's had its swivel removed, you'll want this larger bracket that can bolt down to the bottom under the swivel base. So we're going to be working directly underneath the driver's seat toward the rear of the compartment down here. The first thing we're going to want to do is unscrew the relay from the side of the seat battery box. Our next step is to install this isolator down into that box. This isolator gets its ground through its attachment, so we want to make sure that we have a good metal connection between the body and this isolator tab. So when you're placing your isolator, you want to be mindful of this post and this wall so that you can take this nut off without contacting that wall to service this wire if you ever need to. I like to use a screwdriver to mark where the screws will be so I can clean the paint off and get a good metal contact for the base. Go ahead and pull the isolator out and expose some bare metal for the tabs to contact. I like to bolt this circuit breaker down right next to the isolator. This wire is kind of long. One really simple trick you can do to shorten up this wire is use a screwdriver, put a good amount of tension on that wire and coil it around, and then pull your screwdriver out, and that takes up the slack in the wire and makes it a little bit cleaner. Now we can use the provided self-tapping screws to bolt the isolator and circuit breaker down to the floor of the battery box. The first modification we'll make to the relay is to unplug the wire from the center pin, which is the power wire for the sink pump. Cut the stock connector off and crimp on the included eyelet. We'll connect this directly to the battery when we install it. Next, take the wire coming from the left non-circuit breaker side of the isolator and plug it into the relay's center pin. Next, we'll address this blue wire coming from the top of the isolator. We're going to unplug the number 30 pin red wire onto the isolator. This comes from the refrigerator. This is our keyed power on. We're going to attach this to the piggyback of the blue wire and then plug this blue wire back onto that number 30 pin on the relay. So sometimes we'll have an issue with this red wire with the black tracer. This is going to pin number 85. What this is a ground for this relay. This wire runs from this relay all the way up to the front of the fuse panel and all the way back. Sometimes this can provide a poor ground for the relay. What we like to do is pull this wire. This red-black wire does become hot when the vehicle is running, so be sure to cover it so it won't ground. And make our own short ground. All you'll need to do is take a piece of brown wire, plug in a connector to that, take this ringlet end and put it in between when we reattach it to the wall. With our relay reattached to the wall, we're ready to put our battery in. So now that we have our isolator setup installed into the van, we're going to take this long red wire and run it from our seat battery box up here to our fuse panel. You want to make sure the end of the wire without a connector and fuse is going to the fuse panel. When you're running your wiring up, be sure to get this grommet into the hole in the front of the seat base so that our wire doesn't get cut later down the road. So we want to grab connector B from the back of the fuse panel, which is the big red connector, and unplug it from the fuse panel back. B11 is this wire right here. B12 is these two wires right here. We want to cut those and join those with the red wire that we ran up in this connector. So after you cut these wires, when you plug them back in, they're still going to get power. We want to tape them off or use some heat shrink tubing so that we don't get any shorts. So now we're ready to put the battery in. There are a couple different options that you can use as far as what type of battery you want. If you have a larger battery, you can put it in the cabinet behind the rear seat. For my van, I'm going to put this small SLA 1161 in. We sell this on our website. It's a really good battery for light to moderate use. If you don't have a swivel, you're going to want to utilize this hole and this bracket to hold the battery down. So our system's designed to be run out of the bag with an inline fuse that comes from the back of the fuse panel to the battery. If you wanted to, you can get one of these. We sell these on their website and they really help keep the wiring clean. Now all we have left to do is hook up the battery. First we're going to start with the positive side. We want to connect all of our positive wires to the red terminal on the battery. So this wire comes from our solenoid. This wire is from the stock refrigerator, and this wire is for all the accessories that are up front. The last thing we want to do is ground our battery. We'll use this included black piece of wire and self-tapping screw to do that. I'd recommend exposing some metal where we want to ground the battery in the seat bottom. So that's it, a really straightforward install of our basic auxiliary battery system.